Hey everyone, and welcome to Grade 8 Accounting. I'm Mrs. Lowe, and I will be explaining how to post to the journals for a service business. In Grade 8, the transactions we deal with can be split into two groups, our cash received and our cash paid. We know that in our accounting cycle, the very first step is that each transaction has a source document. Now, our source documents can also then be split into the two groups. One group for cash received and a second group for cash paid. The group for the cash received then includes your cash register roll or your till slip, as most people know it, your duplicate receipt, and I'm saying duplicate because the customer receives the original. And then when people transfer money directly into your bank account, it appears on your bank statement as deposits, and it will appear on the credit side of your bank statement. Cash paid then has two source documents. The check counterfoil, again, whoever you're paying gets the original check, so we are keeping the little slip, which is called the counterfoil. And then the bank statement is used for transactions where I electronically transferred the money into somebody else's account, and it would appear as payments on the debit side of my bank statement. The second step in the accounting cycle is the fact that transactions must be recorded in the journals. Based on what we've learned above, we will therefore deal with two journals, a cash receipt journal and a cash payments journal. The cash receipt journal will be used for money received, and our source documents that we use would be the cash register roll, the duplicate receipt, and the credit side of the bank statement. And our cash payments journal will be used for transactions where I pay money, and the source documents we use will then be the check counterfoil and the bank statements debit side. Now let's look at what a cash receipts journal looks like. The headings in a cash receipts journal, the first heading would be the name of the journal and then the name of the business. We do a cash receipts journal on a monthly basis, and therefore we will fill in the name of the month and the year. And then we need to number each journal. Now I like to use the number of the month. So if we're doing March, it's 3. February is 2. The columns then, the first column is the document number. If you have a receipt, each receipt is numbered, and you will use those receipt numbers. They also need to follow each other. So if you have receipt number 46 as your first one, the next one must be 47, and so on and so forth. If we're dealing with a cash register roll, they don't have numbers, so we will just write CRR. The day is the physical date the transaction took place. In details, we will write the name of the person that gave us the money, except when we are dealing with a cash register roll. We don't write the name on a cash register roll, and then we will just say services rendered because we are only dealing with service businesses. This folio column is used for account numbers, but that we will deal with in grade 9. Analysis of receipt is used for the money that is received at the shop. So if somebody comes in and they pay you, you will record it in analysis of receipt. If somebody transfers the money directly into your bank account, however, you will not use the analysis of receipt column, but you will put the money directly into the bank column. So the amount of money is recorded in these columns. The current account column is used for services rendered. So we will record the amount or the value of the service that's rendered in the current income. If people pay us for another reason, so not for a service rendered, we will record it in the sundry accounts, and then in details we will use the reason, but we'll use the account name. So if somebody pays me for rent, you will write rent income. All right, so let's look at an example. In my activity, Mrs. Lowe is the owner of Fabulous Hair, and then they say record the transactions in the cash receipts journal of Fabulous Hair, and you must total it. The following transactions took place during March 2020. Right, so this provides us with the information to fill in our heading. It's the cash receipts journal of Fabulous Hair. And it is for which month? It's March 2020. So then we say March 2020. And as I said, I prefer to use the number of the month as my number, so I use 3. So let's look at the first transaction. These numbers at the side here, they indicate the date. So the first transaction happened on the 1st of March. Mrs. Lowe deposited 50,000 Rand into the current account of her new business as a capital contribution. So the first thing we need to identify is the source document. She transferred it directly into the bank account, and therefore the bank statement would be the source document. In details, we write the name of the person. It's Mrs. Lowe. Because this money was not paid at the premises or at the shop, it was transferred directly into the bank account. I do not use analysis of receipt. I deposit it directly into my bank account. This was not because of a service that was rendered. So I do not use the current income. This was for capital. So I record it in the sundry account. And the details is the name of the account that I am using, or why did I receive this money. From past information, you should know that every transaction affects 2 accounts. In grade 8, one of those accounts is always bank, so we fill it in bank. The other account is in this case capital, and that's the account's name that we use as the details over here. Right, let's move on. That's the first transaction done and dusted. On the second, cash receipt for services rendered according to cash register roll, as well as Fabulous Hair rents out a building for 10,000 Rand. It was received and a receipt was issued. So there's 2 transactions happening on the same day. For both of these, the money was received at the premises. If we receive 2 transactions on the same day, we're not going to record the date twice. Okay, so let's start with the first transaction. It was for services rendered. My source document is a cash register roll, so I record cash register roll. If it's a cash register roll, I don't need to know the name of the person, so I just write services rendered. Because I received it at the premises, I write it in analysis of receipt. Now, I don't record it in bank because I'm not going to run to my bank and deposit the money at the end of every transaction. No, I do it at the end of the day. So I don't put it in bank. This was for services rendered, and therefore it goes into the current income column. The next transaction was for rent, but a receipt was issued with a number. So now I use the receipt number. I'm not recording the date again. And now, because I issued a receipt, I need to know what's the name of this person. The name of the person or the business that gave me the money was Botha Stores. Again, I recorded in analysis of receipt. And then to say this is the end of the day, I'm totaling the answer or the amount for the day, I draw a little line to say that's the end of today. I add these 2 amounts together. I'm just doing this to explain. And I record the total in bank because this is the amount that will appear on your bank deposit slip. Right. This 10,000 Rand was not for services rendered, so it doesn't go into current income. It goes into sundry account, and your details is why did I receive this money? I'm renting out a business, so this is for rent. Now remember, you can either receive or pay rent, so you need to specify. This is rent income. And that is the second done and dusted. Right, so now we move to the 6th. On the 6th, there's a CRR as a source document. So that's my source document. Again, you write services rendered. And this is 12,000 Rand. This is also the only transaction for the day. So I draw a little line to say this is the end of today. I will deposit this into my bank account. And this is for services rendered. So it goes into services rendered. On the 15th, it was services rendered, but she paid by EFT, so she transferred it directly into my bank account, and therefore my source document is the bank statement and not a CRR. Because it was for services rendered, I don't need to record her name. I can just say services rendered. This was not received at the shop, so I cannot fill it in this column. I need to fill it in into the bank column, however, because it was deposited directly into bank, and it was for services rendered, so then I write it in current income. The last transaction appears on the 22nd, and it was the owner that increased capital and a receipt was issued. Now, they didn't give me the receipt number. What you need to know is that the receipts has to follow each other. So my last receipt that I issued was 46. So this now needs to be document 47. If I issue a receipt, I would have written the person's name, and it's important that I then record the person's name. So in this case, the owner is Mrs. Lowe. She gave me the money at the shop. That's why I issued her a receipt, and therefore it needs to go into analysis of receipt. I then underline it to say, okay, it was the only money I received for today, deposited into the bank account. This was not for current income, so it goes into sundry accounts, and then again I need to record the reason. The reason is capital. These are all the transactions for the month. I then need to total my columns. I indicate a total by drawing a line through all of these accounts, all right? And then a double line at the bottom. Okay, I do not add up analysis of receipt because all the amounts in analysis of receipts is already recorded in bank as well. So if we total the bank column, if I add up all those amounts from top to bottom, it will give me 88,000. If I add up all the amounts in the current income column, it will give me 18,000. And all the amounts in the sundry accounts column give me 70,000. Now to test the accuracy, if you add these two columns together, it will give you the same answer as the bank column. And the reason for that is all the amounts were written in bank and then in either this or in that column. So by adding the total of these two, it will give you the total of the bank column. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you now know how to record a cash receipts journal.